Hello. Thank you for joining us. So we're back here. We're with John Vlassopulos. Did I say that right?
Rock and
Vlassopulos?
roll. Very good, Cooper.
All right. Thank you very much.
Nice.
And
I'm glad
he
you
is
went
the
first because I would have butchered it.
JT,
well,
you know how to say that. It's easy. John V. If you get stuck, it's always the John V. But
John V.
And we have Opulous in the community, which is like half my name. So
yeah.
it's all good. Yeah.
Perfect.
And another a nice shout out to another music project in the ecosystem.
From the top. It's all about community.
From the top.
There we go.
Yeah. And you, sir, are the CEO of Napster, and also have a very interesting history at Roblox and organizing that music division. And when it comes to the metaverse and virtual concerts, you're kind of right in the middle of that, right? I mean, this is something that you've spent a lot of time on. Am I correct about that?
You are. Are you Coop or Cooper? I want to address you correctly.
Oh, Coop. I mean, look, if you're John V, I can be Coop.
If we're getting friendly. Right. Coop, JT, and John V. I like it.
I like it.
Modern day law firm. So I think we'll come to the concerts. You're right. I think there was just a tie that the Napster. So this is actually a new T-shirt. So I think if anyone in the chat shares a meaningful old OG Napster story, maybe we'll send out a T-shirt somewhere in the community. But usually I'm wearing my OG Napster T-shirt. So I actually worked on Napster 20 years ago when I was at Bertelsmann. So I was part of the group that lent the original peer-to-peer Napster $50 million, and then we took $1 billion offer to the music industry back then, and nearly got everything legit. But I had an aggressive German boss who wanted to save the music industry. He was from AOL, and let's say the short story is the music wasn't ready to be saved by a wild German tech guy. So the Napster 2.0 that we never launched, I still think was better than most of the things that have come since in terms of the streaming era. So that was one of the reasons after Roblox for returning to finish what we started 20 years ago. Because it does feel now that the window of innovation that we're seeing now I don't think has been around for 20 years. So that's the catch up. In terms of Roblox, yes, I was at a company called Roblox. When we were private, there was not many of us knocking around, and no one really cared about the metaverse. And we were seeing how we could extend what was a UGC really gaming platform, and then metaverse. We had a global community, and you can kind of think about it, even though we weren't on chain, as like an L1 focused on gaming, right? If it was on chain, and Robux was kind of like a stable coin. So we had millions of developers building on the platform, and all the creator economy scenarios of 15-year-old girl in Guadalajara creating digital assets for a community around the world and feeding a family of 5 was all happening live. So concerts and music seemed a natural way to extend the great experiences that were created on the platform. So we started doing virtual concerts. The first big one was this man, Little Nas X. So we got a little elected statue. So that got 40 million people together. And then he probably took away, $10-20 million in what we call Virch. So I think we were swimming in a different lane to NFTs and Web3. This was not, wealthy guys trading NFTs. This was like real fans paying $1, $3, $5 in the millions. So yeah, I think a lot of the playbook that I had from Roblox we're applying into the new Napster that we're now building. So I think the virtual side of the business and concerts is a lot more fun than streaming, which has been quite solo experience for a long time in a commodity. And then taking into account, I think, community that has been missing for a long time from media, and bring that back in from a gaming perspective that has nothing to do with Web3. And then the best of the non-fluffy side of Web3, right, which we think is blockchain, the transactional aspects, the contracts, and smart contracts to just finally bring innovation to the music industry that's been kind of dying for the last 20 years.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and what I was sort of alluding to or wondering is that if there's a connection, is Napster, is that sort of part of the roadmap to be doing sort of these metaverse kind of virtual concerts, or is it a kind of an entirely different thing?
No, I think it's all one. So I think the notion of if you think about amongst the algo friends that we have on the Zoom, if you think about platforms like Epic and Roblox and Minecraft, it's kind of like the first era of the metaverse. kind of like the walled garden era. I'm a big believer in like the second era, which is more of the open metaverse, in the same way you have like the open aspect of traditional, Web3, that's been around, again, swimming in parallel. So I think the first era of metaverse has been closed. As it goes into the second era, I've definitely, our plans are to develop and launch a Napster concert series, which is not in one of the walled gardens, but is open. There are a lot of great companies now that have launched that are more metaverse as a service or kind of open metaverse platforms that we're looking to do some acquisitions, we'll either buy or partner with to bring that to life. So expect to see in 2023, a Napster concert series presented by, let's call it Brand X, that we can have kind of connected to the core Napster experience, where this is Sad Night Dynamite, whoop, over here, great band from the UK. So you're on their page, you see there's either token gated or just a fun virtual concert. You're already interested in the band, and then you can see the event, but it goes in a browser. So at Roblox, everything was download. So this sort of, we see a future of browser-based. We can have live video. So all the tech in the incumbent platforms was a little older. So we think now with the new tech, we can do things that are equivalent in quality for a lot less price and can reach more people, where you don't have to go into kind of an incumbent walled garden. Yeah. So yes, and I think when you have the notion of again of community and virtual spaces, that helps the flywheel of self-expression, because then you're flexing. I'm here, JT's here, you're here, and we're all there together. So the collectibles that you were maybe purchasing from the band, you can show off. So I think, and that was the secret sauce of the metaverse versus traditionally Web3, is we had a community. So when you were buying a little Nas X t-shirt or backpack, the reason you bought it was to kind of flex with your friends because you're hanging out in these virtual spaces. So we think they all tie in nicely together, but Roblox wasn't on chain. So we think there's huge advantages of now building it with more updated tech for a sector and leveraging the best of being on chain. Sorry, JT, you had
no worries at all. So yeah, I'm curious because Napster just recently went through a pretty big transition with the help of Hivemind and Algorand, going from a public company to a private company. So I'm curious to get your take. Like, what is Napster able to do now that it maybe wasn't able to do as a public company? Like, is there more flexibility as a private company to do what you want? And then another loaded question, I suppose, is like, what is the grand design of Napster? Because we all know Napster as one of the longest standing streaming music streaming companies out there. But with the move into Web3, we just touched on the metaverse virtual concerts. But what is the grand design outside of that?
Sure. All right. I'll try and answer succinctly, JT. But I think we feel we're in a nice Goldilocks situation now with Napster, where respectfully, like, the big guys are too big, and generally speaking, apart from the amazing companies in the Algorand ecosystem, the small guys are too small. So apart from some exceptions, so the nice thing about being middle-sized, not too big, not too small, and private. So the public companies, Daniel and Geronimo, who are doing Deezer and Spotify, they're public. They have to report to shareholders every quarter. So if you listen to their earnings reports, they're not talking really about music anymore. They're talking about audio, with audiobooks and podcasts, right? Because those are higher margin product versus music. So that's the direction they're going in. So what we're doing is kind of a different ball game. And then, a lot of the smaller companies, again, outside the awesome companies in the algo ecosystem in the Web3 music space, the investment that went into Web3 music versus Web3 gaming has been kind of, minuscule or de minimis by comparison. So 4 billion to like 200-300 million. So we think a lot of those, for us at Napster, a lot of them unfortunately haven't been able to survive the winter last year. So we're looking at some acquisitions to bring into Napster of those great tech and teams. And then the ones that are surviving and thriving, we see as great partnerships to kind of combine, and we're having conversations within the ecosystem. So I think the advantage of Napster, I think if you're doing, DeFi rails and infrastructure, you can be full Web3. I think when you're dealing with consumers and media specifically, it's an advantage, which was Algorand's great insight, I think, in terms of doing it, as you mentioned, with Hivebind and the other investor group of the take private last year, having a running start where we already have, all the same global rights to the music as a Spotify has, which are hard, if not impossible, to replicate. We have an iconic brand that reached 100 million people, back in the day. And then we have a global user base that actually pays us money every month around the world. So I think having that as a kind of a hybrid play, where we're 2.5, we can bring in the new features, which you'll start seeing this year, into the Napster ecosystem some things, not Web3, kind of community, some things, the natural first step you'll see around commodity, like a collectible marketplace, right? Because Napster's already a marketplace. We have millions of storefronts, which are the artists and the user profiles. The profiles will start turning into wallets. The community comes in, and then if you love a band, you'll see collectible things that you can get, video, audio, music, experiences that we already have the relationships with to bring on board. So I think all the great momentum that's been happening up to now, we have enough weight in the community and brand to kind of bring them all to bear and start to turn these things, again, bringing into Coop's point, virtual concerts are kind of the best of the metaverse, and bring all that to bear in an independent player that can start to provide some proper consumer traction, as opposed to, it's really tough. Otherwise you're going artist by artist, when you're going pure net new Web3.
So when you fully launch into this new, 3.0, I believe you're calling it Napster 3.0, is this going to be, so it'll still be a subscription-based music streaming, right? And then there'll be a lot of these Web3 things in addition to, is that the plan?
Yeah, so I think in terms of consumer behavior, there's been a lot of, I'm very anti-jargon. So I think as much as if you're a music fan, we like talking about, fandom and rewards and membership and, delighted. So if you happen to, again, love Saturday Night Dynamite and you go onto their, page on Napster, maybe one of their albums, they're all on Warner right now. Maybe they leave Warner and they're independent. So if you're streaming it in the back end, we could be doing that on a smart contract, on Algorand. Mm-hmm. But part of it, if you're streaming another song, that could be on a traditional payout, because we still have them on an existing deal. So I think for the user, some things will be hidden, and there will be a lot of things happening in the back end. We're having discussions around decentralization, almost going back to the old structure in terms of traditional hosting. So some things will be happening intelligently on the back end, whether the user and the fan will not even need to worry. We'll kind of handle things intelligently. And then on the front end, what we found, the hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever we generated in net new revenue at Roblox, that didn't even have anything to do with music. That was all kind of art related to the bands that we work with. And we only work with, 10, 15, 20 artists. So it was still not even at scale. So the notion is within the service, again, think of us as a music marketplace now. The metaphor I've been using is like a festival. So now music streaming is like a festival where you pay money, which is your subscription at the gate. And then you go in on your own and you wander around and listen to any song you want on speakers. It's not very fun, right? Yeah. So the first thing is inserting people, right? So you suddenly have friends who like what you like and your friends in there, so it's immediately more fun. And then you start to have the kind of merch table equivalent, right, with the bands and brands you love, where you can go in. So that natural thing we think is an evolution where maybe it sits in parallel, because currently we don't have a freemium tier. So as we get the freemium tier going, maybe there'll be like a web counterpart you'll see, where the collectibles, which will mirror it, but be outside the paywall. And then we'll start to have an experience where you can maybe listen to some of the tracks outside the paywall, when you're shopping for the stuff you like. And then if you're a member, you'll be able to display, so let's say again, Saturday Night Dynamite, I get a cool collectible. If I'm already a user, I can display that on my profile and have more cred in the community. So running in parallel and then threading together, and then the experiences will come second. Right, so you can start to get initially goods and collectibles, video art, music, and then moving towards experiences after that. And then underlying all that is the community that I mentioned, right? So you'll start to see, if you're into glass animals, you can join the Pineapple Squad and connect with other people in that. And then that has that social flywheel of starting to go, I'm getting my stuff, I'm checking out Coop's profile, he's into what I'm into. And then you get some secondary trading, and it starts to all come to life. So that's the high level, and it's fairly logical just around fandom. If we have 20 years of data of music fans. So Coop, like we would already know that you're a Drake fan or whatever, right? So we can present things to you in your profile that are maybe promotional. You don't even have to buy, and you're going, oh, this is cool. What's this? It's a shout out. Thanks for being one of my first 100 fans in Miami or New York or wherever. So I think it's leveraging the data we have, leveraging the rails that we have. I joined a DJ's club over the holidays as I'm trying to experiment. I won't name the DJ, but he's good and famous. But I paid my equivalent of $150 in ETH or whatever, and honestly have no idea where to go or what to do now that I'm part of the club. right? Because it's out there in the ether. So we think, and when I go back to the website, it asks me to subscribe again. So I think having a place where there's a community already existing and there's natural storefronts, we think should help everyone, because then everyone has context and you go shopping here. It's like a mall. You go here and then you go here and then you go here, as opposed to kind of being off at the side of the highway.
Yeah, so I mean, I would. Go for it.
No, definitely. You go.
Okay, all right. I'll take it. How does Napster plan to, differentiate itself from, all the other music applications that are out there already growing in the ecosystem, or even other ecosystems such as, Opulous, LimeWire, Dequency, A-Note Music, even Audius over on Solana? There's a lot of competition out there, so I suppose I'll say. But of course, one of the advantages Napster has is its brand. But I wonder how else it'll differentiate itself.
Yeah, JT. I think, as I was saying earlier, there are two main experiences that as music fans we like doing primarily, right? One is going to concerts and festivals and events, which the average fan does a couple of times a year. And the other one is listening to music, which we do a couple of hours a day. So I think we already have a lock on the second one, which is the most popular use case, and you're already there. So I think we don't really see it as a competition. We see that, again, they're either partnerships. I think I like Ranil. I've talked to him at Audius. I think they're doing a great job, and I think they're attacking, because they don't have all the other artists. They're having to check out the Sippy Cup, DJ Sippy Cup, or whatever. Right? There are a lot of bands that you haven't heard of yet, and the play is there. Maybe they'll become famous. This sort of SoundCloud pitch. So I think we're very respectful of all the work and innovation that's been done before us, and want to learn. Provide a more mass market opportunity for some of those ideas. So we think, people love listening to music. It's very hard to change consumer habits to get them to do net new things. So we're kind of prioritizing a lot of those, whether it's fractional ownership, we're conscious of the SEC, but whether things are a little bit closer to the sun, or the more obvious things, you'll just start to see within the service, and where there are partnership opportunities. We're talking to the NCC guys, a great project within the ecosystem. So if the things that we can kind of partner on, where we don't need to build it, but we're partnering with a stack, we're not religious about having everything be our own stack. If we can partner then and bring it to market and provide more audience for the great ideas, we'll do that as well.
Yeah, and on the flip side of that question, it seems like you're saying that Napster has the opportunity to be a disruptor again. And, with the bigger boys like Spotify or Apple Music or something like that, which may be so successful at this point that they don't feel the need to adjust into this new world of all of this different type of digital ownership and even fractionalized ownership of maybe songs and royalties and things like that, barring regulations. Is that the idea here? Is that one of the things? Like, you're already a competitor with those big guys. And I've heard, and I don't know. I have noticed, when I heard about Napster, I'm old enough to remember using Napster, but over here on the States where me and JT are, it did sort of fade from view. But then as I looked into it, it's actually still very vibrant in, England and overseas. So,
yep. So yes, I think the opportunity, I was saying, at the beginning, to finish what we started 20 years ago of disrupting the industry. A good mate of mine from that group went on to this little company, Apple, and he's been running Apple Music for the last 19 years. So I think there is an opportunity for major disruption, and it's not, we don't want to chip away at something small. We think this is a multi-billion-dollar opportunity to change the whole landscape. And I think, again, there are elements of gaming that are fantastic, and I think what we did at Roblox was fantastic. But there are things. Roblox was built 15 plus years ago, right? So the underlying tech almost predated blockchain and things that we're all talking about. So I think the opportunity to take as a private, independent but decently sized company, the best of all the innovation in music and social music and different business models, plus community that we've all experienced, whether it's MySpace or your favorite gaming platform, whatever the reference is, plus the best of this decentralized notion of giving agency to, again, the girl in Guadalajara, the guy in Nigeria. Like, think of it, even if Napster becomes a kind of a stable coin equivalent, where we think we can unlock billions of dollars worth of value, where it doesn't matter where you are in the world, banked or unbanked or whatever age. The whole point of the Web3 premise, we think we can bring to bear. And I think as music onboarded digital 20 years ago, we think gaming is fine, and if I'm an investor, it's easy to dump 50 or 100 million into you, me, and JT did a game in 2007, and we're gonna get the gang back together. But it's a very eye of the needle thread to get that right. But music, the great thing is we've got millions and millions of like mini brands within the umbrella that are artists and bands, and each of them have hundreds to millions of followers. So we think if we can rally, which is why music was so attractive earlier with digital, it was just so pervasive and emotional and connected to everyone around the world in every country and every demo. So we think if we can get it right and have the right kind of playground together, that it looks materially different to the other experiences you have. None of them really have any brand affinity, because a lot of them have been packaged in family plans, and the kids, the under 30s. So we reached the 100 million was like 29 to 49 demo, which is weirdly overlapping with some of the Web3. The 15 to 30 don't care about any brand because they just got it with their parents' bundle. So we think Napster has the opportunity to be the blow shit up, cool brand. It's like, you're Napster, and and those are the partnerships we do. A bunch of people want to help with the rebrand and kind of relaunch, but it never, unlike an Abercrombie, that a lot of brands, personality brands, the Bill Cosbys or whatever, and Abercrombie's hit a specific point in their brand life that goes pear-shaped. Napster never did. To your point, it's kind of still floating in the ether. People have the fond memories. It kind of weirdly never went away, and it's like, is it away? Is it still there? But they still have the nice memories from middle school, high school, 20s, 30s, or whatever. So long story short, yes, we think we have an opportunity to really be, that Web3 consumer success that the industry hasn't had in a decade, and show, hopefully, if we get it right in music, there's no reason we can't extend to other creative segments, because the artist is multi-hyphenate by definition. I'm just very passionate about putting dollars back to the creators. And some of the other walled garden platforms, the commercial terms are a little, weighted differently, right? So, and then I think the transparency and permissionless aspect is great, right? Because we can kind of get this market going, and we're not age specific. It's not for kids. It's not for whoever. It's for everyone. Anyway, we're swinging for the, whatever the expression is, swinging for the fences in baseball, going for the home run, versus just trying to chip away at something.
Yeah.
Right. So where does Napster go from here? So I suppose what I mean by that is like, what is on the roadmap? A lot of people want to know, when do some of these Web3 products go live on mainnet? So I suppose I'll just let you take it from here and then, expand on that later.
Yeah. So I think, I inherited a company in Q4 of last year that's still a Web 2 business. So we had some initial cleanup to do on the core business. We're doing close to 9 figures in revenue on the core business. So there's an operational set of work that needed to be done there to kind of prepare us for the next era. I think we're looking at some acquisitions, as I mentioned now. Some of those will help speed up our go-to-market. So now in 2023, we're looking, putting it out as a good group, we're looking for a CTO actively. So we're rounding out the executive team. We're getting ready to get the token process rolling. So I think now, as we've come out of Q4, I think I've been on the job for like 113 days, right? So Q4 was busy, and now we kind of have cleaned up the current entity. We're kind of ready to grow, get on the new team. We're finishing up an investment round. So I think through 2023, I love showing, not telling. So there's been a bit more telling versus showing. So again, in terms of the roadmap, the most obvious thing I think is the collectible marketplaces, right? Because it sits nicely within what we're already doing. So that will be the natural thing. We already have, I think the tough thing with smaller companies is you need to go artist by artist and pay minimum guarantees, right? Because you're an unknown quantity. We're a known quantity. We've delivered $1 billion to the industry, and we have, relationships with hundreds and hundreds of independent and major labels. So that they all have, if you like, virtual goods on virtual warehouse shelves, but that's no good unless they're on virtual retail shelves. So they're very keen to get things into that, Napster marketplace, because if it's not on the shelves, they're not making any money, and they understand the relationship.
Right.
So that's mission number one. And again, as I was saying, that the community starts to have that flywheel as profiles turn into having wallets, and you can start to have the stuff, then you have the community, you can start to have that flywheel rolling, and then moving into the virtual events in the back half of the year. So I think it's rolling now, and we know the community is keen to learn what and when and how can we work together. So we're open. I've talked to most, if not all, of the music projects on I was out at Decipher with the crew out there, as you were. So yeah, I think I'm excited for 2023. It feels like coming off CES and doing some metaverse Web3, panels and discussions and interviews down there. It feels like the consumerization, right, where we're getting away from back-end discussions and talking about tech and actually talking about consumer use cases where it's rewards and engagement and and fandom. Is the brands are getting involved, the media companies are getting involved. So it feels like 2023 can hopefully be a breakout year and prepare for a much stronger 2024, where, again, to the usual fan, they're not being hammered with, you have to do this and complicate this, and it's just, generally easy and natural, and you're getting something of value either from us as Napster or from the label or from the artist or from you're meeting someone that you didn't know and having a social connection, which is valuable. So I think it's just changing it from being a big consumption engine, right, where you just pay X amount per month to stream Chili Peppers or Drake or Sadnut or whatever you want to do, which is fine, but not that nuanced. And if you think about streaming video, at least they have some personality, where maybe you go, White Lotus is HBO Max is White Lotus, right? Because that's my association through the show. Big Little Lies is Hulu. 1899 is Netflix, or Stranger Things. They at least have windowing. In music, there's not even windowing. So literally every service has the same. If you look at Napster, we're the same as Spotify. So we think starting to bring in these new features, it will start to feel new and fresh and unique, and hopefully we'll draw in a new crowd of people that want to connect and do something more exciting than just listen to whatever they want to listen to.
Yeah. And, we are here at Algo Fest, and Algorand and HiveMind came along and were part of the acquisition and bringing it private. What advantages do you see Algorand as a blockchain providing to Napster, and how do you foresee, Napster utilizing the great tech that Algorand is?
So I think one example, talking to some label friends last time I was in the UK, they tried to do an NFT project, and didn't work. And one of the major reasons it didn't work is because the fans of the artists that they were working with realized how high the gas fees, how non-green an eco it was, and they rebelled and didn't participate. So I think one reason we love the Algorand tech is the commitment to the climate and the climate fund and that whole notion, which seems trite maybe to some people, but is very important to younger fans and artists. So that we think is key. I think the Algorand may be coming slightly later to the table, right, in terms of the party, but I think focusing more on reliability, never been down, et cetera. I wouldn't want to run any business, where I have, if I have a restaurant and my, system, I can't take any people to pay a day. I mean, that's just not acceptable, right? So we think everything just has to work, not like it generally works. So that we love the reliability. And then I think being out at Decipher, it's a strong and growing community. So I think we like the notion of working with other great projects, and that community feel as Algorand and the foundation are now really kicking into gear and connecting people and supporting with marketing. We have a studio in the UK, and we want to leverage the studio for Algorand events and et cetera for artists. So I think it's hopefully rising tide lifts all ships within the community. At the end of the day, artists want to connect with their fans, and they want to, express themselves creatively, and they'd like to make some money doing it. So they're not necessarily in the same game that we are of like evaluating chain A versus chain B. They just want everything to be delightful and amazing. So we want to focus on that. And then I think it's working in the back end to make sure all the great tech of Algorand helps us make it seamless and transparent and quick and easy and cost effective for the fans and the music community.
Absolutely. And
I'm wearing my Algorand socks, by the way, just in.
Oh, good. You got.
Yeah. I'm Napster on top, Algorand on the bottom. So there we go.
That's party on top, party on bottom. Yeah.
I was looking through all my Decipher gear to see if I got anything from Napster, but I either couldn't find it or didn't get anything. I'm not really sure about that one.
JT, send me, joking aside, we didn't yet have, the t-shirt that I was wearing was the only Napster t-shirt in existence.
Oh,
so
really?
It was from 21 years ago. So now we do have new ones that we're starting to print. We're going to tie that into some Napster collectibles, which will be something that's coming soon. But send me your info and we'll get you a t-shirt.
Oh, that sounds good.
Sounds like a plan to me. So I'm curious because Napster actually has a reputation of being one of the highest, paying streamers out there. So artists make the most per stream, typically on Napster. I believe Tidal is a close runner-up on that one. But how will Napster continue to benefit artists in the with the transition to Web3? I suppose the question is like, how will Napster greater empower these artists?
Yeah, so I think, again, going back to the earlier point where the last 20 years, the different companies have been focused on formats, right? So everyone says, we're artist friendly, but you're not really artist friendly. You're artist friendly as it relates to short form video, for example, right? TikTok and Shorts and YouTube. So, and Reels. So I think for us, we see the artist as the multi-hyphenate, where some of it is connecting. And we did this, one thing on Roblox, we did a lot of meet and greets. So Glass Animals were doing a virtual meet and greet with their fans, and it didn't cost them anything, and they could do it from their bedroom or in their pajamas or whatever. But the fans, when they were running around, again, the 99.9%, if not 100% of fans will never do a meet and greet in real life with their favorite artists. It's very select. And also the whole notion of the majority of fans will never go to a concert. We've all been, but we're a very small minority of the average person. They're expensive. They're often not in your area. So I think the notion of artists being able to express themselves, these fans came up to the Glass Animals guys in the virtual space and were like going up and go, "Are you really Glass Animals?" And they go, "Yeah, we're Glass Animals." Oh, and they're like freaking out and taking little virtual screenshots and posting on social. And for them, that will be the story about, Coop meeting Bon, or I'm using an example, but whoever we get a chance to meet our legend, you tell that story again and again and again, right? And your friends go, "Come on, Coop, we've heard the story," right? But it's the same thing. My kids are 11 and 12. Their first ever concert was the Lil Nas X concert, which was a virtual concert, right? And then when they went to see Ty Verdes,
Oh, wow.
she got to meet him, and he's like, "Oh, I heard it's your first concert." She goes, "No, it's my second concert. First concert was a virtual concert." So they didn't really see any difference between the physical and the virtual. And actually the virtual in some ways is better because you can be with your mates. Anyway, I think in terms of helping artists, one is allowing them to be creative with what they produce outside a 3-minute song or 4-minute song. So if they want to create, we were creating virtual worlds in 3D that Zara Larsson wanted to have, a pink flamingos flying around in a Swedish lake house. And we did it, right? So you're kind of dreaming and painting in much more than a song. And 21 Pilots were crazy, some of the most creative guys I've ever worked with. And it was like working on an HBO. It was like working on Westworld. I mean, so much lore, and if you ever go to a live show. So one is empowering artists to be creative beyond 3 or 4 minute song, video, art, virtual experiences. And then it's also, I think, allowing artists to connect in, with their time, right? To monetize their time, right? So if I want to do a virtual event or a concert or a meet and greet, and I'm a fan, or I want to do Coop's a big fan of whoever, and the artist says, "All right, we're going to 500 of my top fans. I'm just going to play the album and hang out and chat." For a fan, that is insane, but that you can't really do it elsewhere. So we think allowing them to monetize their time in creative ways that they choose they can do. There's something you can do on the older legacy platforms, the Twitches, but they're kind of a bit clunky, right, for the modern artist. And there are certain, you've got to be on there for hours, and the monetization is more advertising than transactional. And then, collectibles, and then making sure outside the music, a lot of that relationship is directly with the artist. So the lion's share of that money doesn't go to the labels, it goes to the artist directly. So they're able to supplement, in the case, again, Lil Nas X, 21 Pilots, not being specific, but a lot of those deals went entirely to the artist directly. So big artists, small artists can start to offset, where touring, usually artists would not make money on a streaming service or not enough, and then they supplement it by touring. But now with the war and Brexit and inflation, even touring is tough. So I think it allows, hopefully, the hope is that artists can be creative for longer, because if you tour 200 days a year, there's only so many years you can last. Coldplay, even at the level of their career, they're still going out on the road for like 3 or 4 years. It's very disruptive to health and relationships and all these kind of things. So if we can enable them to have a similar income, but not having to kind of, if you like, work so hard or such a strain, and have that more virtually, we think that's hugely beneficial creatively, great for the fan, and puts more money in their pockets above and beyond the $9.99 subscription, which is kind of the traditional model.
For sure. I mean, first, I do like the fact that you have me from Drake all the way to Bon Jovi. So you have me running the gamut.
Did I hit on either? No.
Yeah, Bon Jovi was never really my favorite. I'd probably be more of like a Bruce Springsteen over.
I was going to go for Bruce Springsteen. You see?
Okay. But Drake's cool. I mean, I don't mind Drake's music. And another point that you made was this idea that younger people really, and this was an obstacle a few years ago that I really started to figure out that, they find value in the digital experience. It's an older generation may not actually kind of feel that, but it's there. And these younger people will pay for these digital things. You saw it at Roblox, obviously. I mean, you guys made a killing on these digital items, right? That's why I won't let my children play Roblox. I know I'll go broke, Minecraft and things like that.
No. I bought my nieces so many Robux for Christmas. It was
if you JT, to your point, right? So again, you think of the Web3 promise, right? As again, it feels like the lanes of metaverse and lanes of like traditional Web3 blockchain have been very separate. So if you go back to that Roblox experience and imagine again, it's an L1 focused on gaming, and Robux is the stable coin. The whole promise of maybe Web3, there could be a token that's so commercialized, blah, blah, blah. So we literally had, JT, to your point, it was so consumerized that a generation preferred it to cash. I mean, how mind-blowing is that if you translate that to being on-chain? And literally, when my kids were of the age, they were also on demo, and all their friends would come to the house. It was like a hero. It was like the Roblox guy, and but they didn't want money from their parents. They wanted like Roblox gift cards. So I think that is amazing, right? And then if you think secondarily, we really did have those use cases of the 15-year-old girl in Guatemala feeding her whole family, right? When you atomize all the items and really have a token that's leverageable within the community. So, translating that to music, if I'm a Nigerian, rapper and I have some beats and I'm, connecting with someone in Norway and it's all transacted in the Napster token as that uniform economy, we feel there's, and playlisting, I'm very passionate about the sort of anti-rap caviarization, right, or whatever, where as opposed to a few people holding the keys to curation of what you should listen to, I want to push that to the edges, right? Or I want to listen to my local DJ, my old friend, my, one of the guy in the sneaker shop down the road, or the kid the kid is this amazing music scene breaking in South Africa. And he's curating, and he can be rewarded, or she can be rewarded. So I think it's pushing again. We had a bunch of jobs that you wouldn't see as jobs, where people were making income, whether it's making digital items or kind of curating and promoting. So that I think is the exciting thing moving forward, where once you have the community and you connect people, music is the great connector. If we all share, now I know at least Springsteen from Coop, but if I know 10 of his favorite bands, if we have an overlap on 4 or 5, we're mates, right? We can see that compatibility. We have all that data. So hopefully it can move again from this fairly sterile consumption era, where it's just more, and also away from the short form videos of just distraction with advertising, with the attention economy. The overlay, I think, of blockchain and Web3 is we're sort of, the macro trend is moving towards, still there?
Yeah, you're good.
It froze for a second. So I think the macro trend is moving again away from kind of the attention economy fueled by advertising, where it's just more and more time and addiction, moving towards the transaction economy, where you can be more deliberate with your time as a creator or as a fan, but extract more value. And you don't need the millions and millions of fans. You need the hundreds of fans, and you can actually monetize more effectively. And as people, we don't need to be on the platforms for hours and hours and hours, and can be they're very good at addicting us, but it's not, I don't think, good for people. So I think that's the macro trend, even beyond the specifics of putting more power in the hands of the creators and data and empowering fans and not having gatekeepers. But it's also that move towards the transaction economy that we kind of had in the mobile era with carrier billing, where you could suddenly put anything on your bill. Hopefully it's as easy again with kind of blockchain billing. as well. So a lot of directionally things that have been pent up for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, I think are now able to be unlocked.
Cool. And then, one of the final community questions we have here, and I feel like you sort of touched on it earlier, but it's obviously been a bear market. The crypto market has been hit hard, along with the equities market and stock market and everything. But you seem to hint towards you guys seeing this an opportunity to acquire some cool stuff, maybe at a better price than before. But have you found this to be a struggle, like a time of struggle, or actually a time for opportunity and acquisition?
So I think it's always a struggle. Building anything is always a struggle. It's like, look, I think I'm a strong believer in the bright star and the dark sky philosophy. I think it's my own philosophy. I don't know where I got it from, but the notion if 2023 generally is dark sky, if there are a few bright star standouts, it's obviously a good thing because you're not competing with the starry sky. So from that perspective, we think we're not deep infrastructure rails for DeFi, right? We're fairly binary. It's music, it's fun. We have artists to kind of bring it to life. It's consumer. So we think, if we get it right, there is an opportunity for some kind of roll-ups and getting some great tech and teams in to speed up our kind of transition and then go really strong, we think, in 24. And again, I think for the companies that are thriving, again, great partnerships, but it needs to get, I think, everyone coming together from a consumer perspective where both the music industry and fans don't see it as a science experiment, but they can go, and that was I remember the first event we did was with Ava Max before we did Little Nas X, and it was like, we got a couple of million people together. There might be something there. And then the Little Nas X thing nearly killed us all, but we got it. Now it's 40 million people, and then he's generating money. So it's just having these lighthouse examples where we can start to go, it's not just a science project. This is a real thing, and this is genuinely where it's headed. And then we get the momentum going. I think hopefully this should be a tough like everyone, but should be an opportunistic year, as you said, Coop.
Yep. And I know you need to go. We've been running late, and thank you so much for working with our schedule. You had mentioned the Napster token earlier. I know people are excited about that. I guess maybe less about when launch, unless you want to talk about that. But also maybe you could elucidate a little bit on the utility of what that token will be. Is it going to be like a Robux thing where it's like the currency of the universe, the metaverse?
So I think, there is a light paper out there, which is very much a 1.0. I think a lot of the things we've been talking about should kind of lend the direction that we're going with the token. And I think we've got some very smart people coming together to kind of fine tune it. But look, I think even at a base level, if the Napster token becomes the creative token for the entire music industry and fans, we think that's multiple billions of dollars of value because it unlocks all the things that we had with a kind of stable coin on-chain token with Robux. So even at a minimum, we think there's billions of dollars of value where it becomes that, from my beats and your songs and your artwork, JT, we can all kind of communicate in one universal thing outside banking, guardrails and outside, age restrictions and government borders. So I think all the best of Web3 with three things as a baseline. And then on top of that, again, as I said, we're looking at things like fractional ownership. We're slightly wary of flying too close to the sun, as I said, with the SEC. So we're kind of keeping an eye on that. But all the other things I think will start rolling where there'll be a mix of rewards in terms of earning the token for kind of good behavior in the front end of the community. Maybe there's an opportunity to kind of on the back end with decentralizations and node partners kind of being rewarded, with the token. But generally, we're not, the plan is to not go too close to the trees in terms of what we're trying to do. We think there's enough to do just having that kind of universal token that the creative community and fans can leverage as a starting point, and then we'll sort of proactively build on top of it from there. Awesome.
Well, I like to hear it. You'll be the producer, I'll be the singer, and JT will do all the cover art. I like this setup. I can do it.
Perfect.
Yeah, I love it, and we'll get Sean can rap. We'll see if he can rap on top. And
we got C Will. We'll get C Will in.
Oh yeah, C Will's my co-host for the next panel. That guy can definitely rap. So I'll do the hook, he'll do the rapping, you'll do the beats, and you'll do all the cover art, JT. All right.
Perfect.
Fantastic, guys. Thanks so much. Great chat.
Thank you.
Take care, John.
See you guys.